Alright, thanks a lot for checking in on my new blues guitar lesson. I've been wanting to do this one for a while. I get asked a lot, being a teacher, how to solo effectively over a 1-4-5 blues. And my answer to that is not always easy, because there's not one right way or one approach to doing it. There's a lot of approaches, and that's really what you want to be able to do over time, is to learn many different approaches. And it makes things more interesting, makes things more fun. And some of these sounds can be, foreign to your ears at first. You have to really play them a lot to get them stuck in your head and just know how to use them right. So a lot of you, including myself, we all learn our minor pentatonic scale first, and we use that a lot. I'm guilty of that, just as probably all are. Eventually you start, hearing stuff, stuff like that, right? This happier sound, right? It's the major pentatonic scale. So, this is going to be a long lesson, all right? And I may even probably end up stopping here in a little bit during it and come back another time and finish it. So I just want you to know that right away. This isn't going to be some quick, short lesson. I really want this to be in-depth, and I want you to understand what you're playing, so everything makes more sense, so you can apply things to different keys. You should always want to know what you're doing when you go to learn something. So we're going to be talking about solo the 1-4-5 in the key of A. That would be A7, D7, and E7. So all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play a couple times through a 12-bar blues. I just want you to listen. I'm going to keep it really simple, and then I'm going to start breaking things down to help you guys start soloing more effectively and just making things more interesting for yourself too. Okay. So here we go. Now, I've never done this before, so I'm going to be fumbling around probably quite a bit with this. So here's the track. Here we go. Bring the camera down. Let's start again here. See what I'm doing. One, 4, 1, 5, 4, 1, 5. We're back to the 1. So let's talk about that there, right? We got the 1, the 4, and the 5. So I want you to now see here. I'm going to go get Guitar Pro going here. We're going to walk through some of this stuff, okay? So here's how this goes. So the first thing here that I'm doing is I want you to learn the arpeggio of the A7 chord. Alright, so that here, if we look right here, this would be our E7 shaped A7 chord. Well, this is this chord right here. Many of you know this is your open E7 chord moved up to the 5th fret, and then we bar, right? With my E7 moved up. Alright, now with that chord, the chord tones. What are chord tones? Chord tones are just the notes of the chord. And if we play those arpeggiated, well, then we're playing the notes, the chord tones broken, or the notes of the chord broken. That's what an arpeggio is. So when you look at an A7 chord, the notes are A, C sharp, E, and G. This does become important. The scale degrees do too. I should have that on here. 1, 3, 5, flat 7. So Now we're starting in the E position. I'm doing that because many of you are gonna know this, right? So right here. There's your chord. So here's the notes: A, C sharp, E, G, A, C sharp, E, G. Then it starts over: A, C sharp. Oh, because we already have the sharp there. Sorry. So A, C sharp, E, G, A, C sharp. And that's as far as we go in that position. So already for some of you, where we're going to go with this is you already know your minor pentatonic scale. So you could analyze that arpeggio and realize that you already have some of those notes, like the 5th fret of the root, the 7th fret here of the A string is in the A minor pentatonic, the 5th fret of the D is, and so is the 7th fret of the D string. 6th is not, and we're going to get to that. That's an important note. The 5th fret is in the minor pentatonic of the B, so is the 8th fret. So you can see that, right? So now these other notes that are not are the chord tones, or we could even consider those notes part of the major pentatonic scale, which we're going to get to in a second. So what I want you to do here is play the scale, or play this arpeggio, and get it stuck in your head, right? Let me do this. I had a loop going here before. So something you can do is, you could just play an A7 chord. I could just do something like. So watch this here. I'll get a loop going. Okay, so there's my loop. Just an A7 chord. All I'm trying to do right now is just hear the arpeggio. Okay, you get the idea. So I'm just trying to get the sound of the arpeggio down, or get that sound, get those the sound of the chord tones in my ear, in my head. So if you can make music with just the chord tones, it says that's telling you a lot, because then you can add in the other notes of the scale. So there I'm playing the arpeggio, but I'm adding in other notes from the blues scale, the major pentatonic, the minor pentatonic, etc. Okay? So I would really do that. I encourage you to do that. Go on YouTube and just type in A7 one chord backing track or one chord groove or something, and stuff will come up. And it's nice because the chord's not changing. So you can just sit there and you can just keep playing this and try to be musical with it, right? Just doing this. Just running it up and down is not musical. So even if you're just right? Just try to be musical with it, That's really just so important. It's just like running a scale. We don't just run a scale up and down, you gotta make it musical. But that takes work and time, and, it just doesn't happen. So, but you still want to know that you're on the right path to be able to do it, okay? And that's what I'm hoping to do here for you, is get you on the right path to make things more interesting. And it becomes a snowball effect, right? You learn this stuff, and then it's like, what's next? You learn this and that, and all of a sudden, you're doing all sorts of different things you never thought you would. Okay, so we got that. Now we're going to go to the A major pentatonic. So now right here, again, we're in our E form. You could view this in a blues context, like we did with the arpeggio, as the A7 chord, or the E7 shaped chord. Or you can see it as A major, pinky down. That's fine. So, but here is your A major pentatonic scale. So for some of you, this is foreign, this is new. You've never done this before, okay? Because we're in a blues context, context, I am going to see it as the E7 shaped chord, right? So, if you're ever in doubt, My Girl is that. It's just right up the scale. So if you ever want to know if you're playing your major pentatonic scale right, you can do that. All right, now we got to analyze this again. We're trying to see the difference between the A7 arpeggio and what's different with the A major pentatonic scale. So some of these notes are in there. The only one that's really not is we play in the major pentatonic. We play the 6th degree versus the flat 7. Right? So, what I'm getting at here is what I really want you to start focusing on, and I'll do examples here in a second, but I want you to start focusing on the one chord in a 12-bar blues is to just focus on playing the arpeggio and adding in the A major pentatonic scale. And then we'll talk about the 4 and the 5 chord and how you're going to play. For now, we're just going to stick to staying to the A minor pentatonic scale and the arpeggios of those chords. Okay? So let me just do an example here for you of, let me bring back up the backing track here. So this is just an example of me using A major pentatonic scale and parts of the arpeggio. Now remember, it's going to be very easy to do this because there's only one note, the flat 7 of the A7 chord. If we go, let me just go back to the A7 arpeggio, right? So it's the flat 7 here. We're playing the 4th fret of the D string. Where in the arpeggio, you play the 5th fret of the D string. So you see that here? So you can see the arpeggio, A, C sharp, E, but we're not playing G here. Okay, so there's that one note, so it's really easy to do. So here, let me just give you an example again. This is all over just the one chord, right? So straight up arpeggio here. So, I mean, that was honestly just the A7 arpeggio, or you could say it was A major pentatonic too, even though the flat 7 is not in the A major pentatonic, that would be in the minor pentatonic scale. So you're already starting to blur the line there of, major and minor sound, just because you got that the major third. So when you play the A7 chord here, right, this C sharp is the major third of the chord. And such an important note. Right? So we're playing that here when we play the arpeggio, along with the flat 7, which kind of gives us the minor sound. So this is so when you play the 4th fret or the 5th fret of the D string and the 6th fret of the G, that's the flat 7 and the 3rd of the A7 chord. What that creates is a tritone. And what this tritone does is essentially allows us, this is why we can play both major and minor, because the flat 7 gives you the minor sound and the major third gives you the major sound. Okay, so that, what I just did right there was nothing more than just arpeggios. So now I'm going to do it again. And again, this is all just over the one chord here. I'm going to do it again, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to think more major pentatonic versus the arpeggio. All right? And again, it's really the same thing almost, but just the way my mind is thinking about it. So here we go. So you saw that now that was the 4 chord coming up there, and we're going to get to that. So now I'm just using this right here. Okay, I just played essentially the bottom 3 strings using starting here. So and I'm bending at times. So it comes down to phrasing. I mean, anybody could learn that, but it's how you use it. That's the stuff that takes a long time to get better at, and phrasing, and I mean, B.B. King didn't play the way he did when he first picked up a guitar. I mean, he put a lot of work into that to play the way he does. A lot of times that's a great way to think, is think B.B. King. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm just really focusing on phrasing. I'm not trying to fill up every single, space. I want to leave space. As I've been telling some of my students, there's a lot of us that would sound better if we just didn't play. And I don't mean it like not play. I mean just at times more rests in your playing. All right, so this is, again, it's not that you can't use the minor pentatonic scale. It's just that you, over the one chord, right? If that's all you've ever done is just solely use the minor pentatonic scale, and for right now, all I'm asking is that you just start to try using the major pentatonic and a little bit of the arpeggio on the one chord, just to get that sound, right? Now let's move on. Let's move on to the 4 chord here. So I'm going to bring up, well, let me play into that first, and then I will run through that. Here we go. So, again, I'm just using the arpeggio. So here we are in our A-shaped chord for our D7. I'm probably going to come back to stuff too, so I do want to make this a pretty long lesson and just keep covering different things and come back and move it in different positions. So what I just used right there was my A7 shaped D7 chord. So I'm moving up this A7 shape, this open A7 chord's moved up to the 5th fret, right? So that's the chord that I'm playing right now. So I'm barring at the 5th fret, my ring finger's at the 7th of the D, pinky's at the 7th of the B string. This is the arpeggio. Just played right there, this arpeggio. So hit pause or something and take a few seconds, just run through the arpeggio, but relating it to the chord. Maybe play the chord first and then play the arpeggio, play the chord, run it all the way up and all the way back and end with the chord, whatever. But as soon as you get the arpeggio learned, you have to stop running it up and down. I'm just trying to make music with it. I'm not just running it up and down. It's just like a scale, right? You don't run a scale up and down. So we got to break it up. And that's really where we're headed to. We're headed to like trying to see this stuff, with blending the two together, blending the scale. See, I don't like my thing down here because I keep looking down there. I know I need to look at the camera. So we're trying to blend the scales and the arpeggios together. That's going to create more interesting sounds. All right, so I don't remember exactly what I did now, but I know, I know what I did, but exactly how I played it. Again, that's not the important thing here. The important thing is that you start to understand what I'm doing and where it's coming from so you can do your own thing. So I'm starting right here. I started right here on the 7th fret of the B string. Now I walked into it with the minor 3rd, and I'm going to get to that hopefully today or this lesson. But so I walked in with the 6th fret, and then I played the 5th fret of the high E. I threw in the 8th fret there, and again, these are all chord tones. All right, so I'm just essentially messing with these 3 notes here. F sharp, A, and C. And the notes that make up the D7 chord, should have said this first, are D, F sharp, A, C. 1, 3, 5, flat 7. So it's important to know this stuff. Remember, it's very, what's the word to use? It's just, it's a lot of thinking at first when you're doing this stuff. But the more you do it, I guess I use the word rigid, if that's right. Everything's real rigid. You're thinking it's not, doesn't feel natural and stuff. I think that's where people get mistaken when they think, oh, you shouldn't learn theory, you shouldn't learn, you should use your ear. It's like, well, yeah, you should use your ear. Of course, you should have a good ear. You want to develop a good ear. But when you develop a good ear and then you throw in knowing this, what you're doing, it's gold. And I'm playing really simple things here. I'm just using a few notes. But I think what's the thing is what's making it sound good is that it's the way I'm phrasing it. At least I hope it sounds good. But it's the phrasing that I'm doing. I'm not just filling up every single space. I'm leaving space. I'm trying to, at least. But I've been doing this for a long time too, and I've put a lot of effort into trying to be a better blues player, and so. Now that's just the arpeggio over the 4 chord. So I said before to focus on the minor pentatonic over the 4 and the 5, or A minor pentatonic on the 4 and the 5. Yes, and the arpeggio. So there I'm playing the arpeggio, and then I'm breaking the blues note. Alright, so I'm using the arpeggio of the D7 chord. All arpeggio. Now minor. So I broke into A minor pentatonic there, right? Okay, so what I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to teach and then give examples. So now again, I want you to listen to when I get to the 4 chord, how I'm gonna, we'll see what happens. It's either gonna be the arpeggio or it's gonna be the minor pentatonic scale, A minor pentatonic. So here we go. Again, keep it simple, right? So yes. So I walked in with the, I did the arpeggio, and then I forget exactly what I did again, but I know I did. I came down in the minor pentatonic scale in third in groups of 3. It was straight A minor pentatonic. So I'm blending the D7 arpeggio with the A minor pentatonic scale. All right, let me just do it again. Let me see what I come up with again this time. You can see here that this is, everything for me is off the cuff here. There's nothing, I knew the lesson I wanted to do, but I'm just going with it here, so there's going to be mistakes. And, I'm not going to always remember exactly what I played. But again, I just have to say it. Don't worry exactly what I'm playing. Understand how I'm doing it. That's what you want to be able to do, is you want to be able to know what I'm doing. So here we go. Bending first. Alright, so there I finally got us to the 5 chord, and I just took what I did for, okay, well, let's look at it. Well, let me first say, So again, you could hear I did something like that when I got to the 4 chord. I still did the same thing. I walked in with the D7 arpeggio, and then I went and did that blues cliche stuff, right? So I'm bending that 8th fret of the B string out, and then I'm catching the, so I'm kind of doing the, I'm basically playing the same note, but I'm doing a lot of hybrid picking right now too. I know that's another thing that some of you might point out or ask me here is, you know, I'm using my fingers, I'm using my pick, I'm using pick and hybrid picking, and these are just things that I've just worked at a lot over the years to get proficient at, and just gives you more variety, right? More versatile when I can, if I want, I know I'm getting off topic here, but if I want that snappier, I just use my fingers, right? If I just want straight, something more fast and pick, and then if I just want a combination of both, you know, I'm going to use pick and fingers, right? Okay, so you saw what I did for the D7 chord there. Again, I'll just say it one more time. It was a combination of the arpeggio, right? And again, I'm using this arpeggio right here, the A7 shaped D7 chord, and throwing in the minor third there to start. And that's whole nother lesson. And then just seeing the minor pentatonic, you know, use some licks that you already know. Establish the 4 chord first with some of the chord tones. And then bring in some of your licks that you already know. All right, so let's move on now to the 5 chord here. There we go. So this will be the, well, I'll show you in 2 ways here. I just moved it up, what we did for D7. I just moved up that, I moved that up a whole step to E7. So I'm just using the same arpeggio when it went to the 5 chord. And again, I walked into the 9th fret of the B string from the 8th fret. And again, I don't remember exactly what I did, but something along that lines. And then I moved it down to what we did for D7. Okay, so I didn't finish it off right there, but you get the idea. Yeah, so again, there's a lot of different ways that we can approach the 5 chord. You know, but if you've never done this before, then keep it simple. Just work on hitting chord tones and getting that stuck in your head. You know, for some of you right now watching this, you may never have tried to follow the chords ever. You just use the A minor pentatonic the whole time over the whole thing. So if that's the case for you, then this is going to be quite a challenge to do this. So make sure you slow things down. When you bring a backing track up on YouTube, whatever A blues shuffle feel you bring up, you know, make sure it's slow. Slow it way down so you're giving yourself time to be able to think ahead there, right? Okay, then 5 chord, back to the 4. Now, what I was going to say before is that if you wanted to stay in position, then I would look at the C7 shaped E7 chord. So right here, and the notes, glad I come up here, I keep forgetting to tell you the notes of the chord. So E7 is E, G sharp, B, D. Again, 1, 3, 5, flat, 7. And we looked at this shape, which we already did for D7, and now I'm looking at the C7 shape. Same root, 7th fret of the A string, right? And that's that right there. So what I'm getting at here is that, you know, I moved up, you know, I moved out of position. It's not a big deal, but it's just I could have stayed, you know, right in position here and had everything I needed. So make sure you see that. Make sure you see your A7 arpeggio, your D7, and then your E7, all confined together. And you have everything. And then you can still, if you want to, honestly, you can base all this new information off the A minor pentatonic scale. If that's what you need to do, right? It's fine. So, but I see all this stuff separately. It's not, I'm not, basing it just off the minor pentatonic scale. Now let's end this. Well, I haven't played all the way through yet, I guess. But so then we would just end it back because we did the 5 chord to the 4, and then we would come back to the 1, right? Now on the 1, you can do some type of simple turnaround. This is a pretty classic one. This is just 5th fret of the high E, and then you're on the 8th fret of the B, and you're just walking down, And that's the classic stuff right there. You can hybrid pick it. Okay, so let me just play through again. And really think here about what we're doing, right? We're following the chords. We're understanding the chord tones of the chord. We're seeing the arpeggios and the major minor pentatonic scales together, kind of superimposing everything on top of each other. So here we go. Again, I'm just going to do I may take some more risks here and jump around and see the information in different places on the neck. But overall, I'm really trying to keep it really simple and just focus on phrasing. So, first part, nothing really new. I just, the same stuff I was doing before. And I did do the 5 here. So I used that C7 shape right here. And then, where am I at? Walked into the 4. Okay. Now, then the second time through, well, I'm trying to be BB now, right? I've come up into the BB box up here, right? So what we view here is we view this as from the A7 or the C7 shape for A. So let me bring it's this what you just learned in E but moved up to A, but I will bring up that arpeggio here. So that would be right here. So I'm seeing the same information in a different place. It's really, I don't want to say simple, but it is. It is simple, but it's not. And I get that. And I don't mean simple like, it's not simple, but to think about and to understand, like, you're just playing essentially the same information in a different place on the neck. I mean, that really is what you're doing. And I mean, it's good to know that because it should make it a little bit easier to understand and be a little bit simpler. But it's just that the notes are all in different places, and your fingers got to get used to that. So C7. I forgot my flat 7. You can sweep that first 3. So the same, yeah. So I'm just doing the blues stuff here. Now, yes, I know that this major 6th isn't in the arpeggio, but it's in the major pentatonic scale. So then let's do that. So just like before, I showed you the E7 shaped A7 arpeggio, and then I showed you the A major pentatonic, and then we compared those two together. We're doing the same thing, just that we moved it into a different position, right? For some of you also too, maybe I'm calling out these chords. This is your caged system for even for seventh chord, so right. So we start at C, C shaped, A shaped, I'll open, but then G shaped, ED. Well, CAGED spells cage. So these are your open caged. Your open chord gets moved up. The G7 shape, the E7, the D7, the C7, and then again the open A7 moved up at the 12th fret. That's another whole lesson to do that, right? Yeah, so this is what I'm seeing here now. I'm seeing this C7 shaped A7 chord. And just the same stuff. Sorry. So there's my major pentatonic scale here. Oh, that's what I forgot to do. I knew I was forgetting to do something. So it's your C-shaped. Where's it at? Right here. So it's your C-shaped A major pentatonic scale. I'm confusing myself here, going back and forth. But this is your C-shaped A major pentatonic scale. So the same thing you learned here for your E form. My girl, boom, 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 boom. Well, we have it up here. But again, I didn't start on A. There it is, starting in A. Your root shape, right? 12th fret of the A string, the 10th fret of the B. Those are the two A's. Okay. So I was coming in on the 11th fret of the G string to the 10th fret, your root, the 10th fret of the B. So essentially I'm playing this to this to this, right? I mean, this right here for B.B. King stuff is, just... those are just three notes. Then you start adding the rest of the scale, the arpeggio, and then we have your minor pentatonic scales. So maybe you don't know. That's a whole nother thing here too. So here's A minor pentatonic. And we all know this, right? The King Daddy of all scales is the E form for A minor pentatonic. But so many of you don't know the rest of these forms. And if you don't, I actually recommend that you start learning your scales linear on two strings. I think that would be more beneficial. I'm going to do a lesson on that here soon too, about learning your scales linearly first and learning them in the box shapes, right? But anyway, it's still good to learn. You still want to learn these forms. So in this case, I'm just going to go on with the forms here. But so for many of you, you don't probably know this form, the C minor shape form for A minor. Here's the chord shape right here. Right here. Yeah, it's a funky fingering, but it's doable. A lot of times you're just going to play just this. You're just going to play the triad shape of it. But you want to know the roots here and here, right? So there's that minor pentatonic scale now. So again, you're trying to superimpose all the information together. So far, what would we have? We'd have the A7 arpeggio up here, the C form, and then we'd have our A major pentatonic, and then we just did the A minor pentatonic scale. So then what you'd want to do is you'd want to come here and you'd want to what just happened here? You want to see your D7 arpeggio. What is it up here? Well, it's going to be your E form here. So it's what you did for A7. So you're going to start seeing how this stuff moves in different keys. So what you just did before for A7 arpeggio, well, if I move up to the 10th fret of the low E and play it right here, it's the same arpeggio. Same exact arpeggio. It's a D7 now versus an A7, so it's not the same chord or notes, it's just the same shape moved up to become a D7. So isn't that nice? The same, you already know it, right? So think about it. Really right now you haven't learned anything new, because so far for the one chord, you moved up the C, which you learned for E7, the C7 form. You moved that up, but that became now A. And then what you learned for your first chord, the A7, the E7 shape, you moved that up and turned that into the 4 chord. So you haven't learned anything new, right? But now we will, because when we look at the 5 chord here, it's going to be your G7 shape, E7 chord. So let me come. Why is this not happening? There we go. So then that would be your G. Where's that at? Right here. Your G7 shaped E7 chord. Here is the. Where am I at here? Right here. That's the chord. I know it's not easy to do. It's not easy for me to do up here. I have to kind of get down and. But it's so much not about if you're going to use it. It's about just visually seeing it and understanding it, right? Because again, the chord is really all the chord tones, the arpeggio. So there's my E7 shaped, my G7 shaped E7 chord. And I know that some of you out there really probably aren't understanding what I'm saying when I'm saying this stuff right now, but it's okay. You eventually will. You know, get a hold of me. Come take a lesson or do a lesson online. I can help you figure this stuff out better. Okay, so again, you know, you learn that. The point again here is that I'm using the same information that I did here, and I'm just finding it all up here. So you can see where this leads to. It leads to knowing the information on the whole neck. So once again here, I'm gonna solo again. I'm gonna keep it really simple. I'm gonna try to first just completely keep it to chord tones. So that's just playing the A7 arpeggio, the D7, and then the E7 arpeggio. Okay, here we go. Mistakes in there, but you get the idea. You know, I just used chord tones there. So let me mix it up again. So I'm gonna think the A major arpeggio and the major pentatonic on the 1 chord, and then the arpeggio of the 4 and the 5, and the A minor pentatonic on the 4 and the 5. So here we go. Try it again once. That's okay. I mean, you guys, I know you're getting what I'm doing here. So, yeah, just the same information everywhere, right? So, I think I'm going to leave it. I think I'm going to leave that, you know, as that for now. Let me give that one more go here. So I wasn't seeing the minor pentatonic actually very well there. Let me try it again once. So major pentatonic and the arpeggio here. Four arpeggio. A minor pentatonic. Let me bring this back up here. So, all right. So this was my first time, using this software, and sorry if it was a little clunky, All right. I hope you get the idea here. Really, I keep saying it, but it's just so important that you understand. It's chord tones and scales for now, and then we can get into more complicated, challenging things. Outside sounds like using diminished stuff like that. Just which is challenging me right now. And you can hear here when I'm doing this. I made mistakes. And I think that's one of my things I want to do is I want to try and not have cuts, and I want you guys to see that I'm making mistakes. I think the problem with this stuff online is that everybody's trying to do it perfectly, and they're taking 25 takes, and they're making cuts, and they're it's like, so what? You make mistakes. I make mistakes. This stuff's not easy. The great thing is that the better you keep getting is that you have more control over your instrument, and you do make less mistakes. But it's you're still gonna make mistakes, especially if you're trying to learn new things and new challenging things, and you are challenging yourself, then you are for surely always going to be making mistakes. So I guess in a way you could say that's a good thing, because if you're not making mistakes, that means you're not challenging yourself, right? And for some of you that's tough, because you just want to have the instant gratification, and that doesn't always happen when you're learning an instrument, right? Okay, so if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm here to help you, and I do offer private lessons, either in person or online. I'm also going to be starting up a new website called bluesyguitar.com, which I'm really excited about, and I'm hoping to get that rolling for lots of video lessons. And so yeah, all right, well, have fun with this. Take it slow, please, and again, let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.